Let's learn how to animate with your iPad and use it to perform a cool mind reading card trick.
The apps I use to animate are Procreate and the new Procreate Dream. I prefer drawing the frames in Procreate, so let's start from here. The first thing we need to do is to create a new canvas like usual. As I was planning to use it as my lock screen, I just used a standard 4K resolution as a base and updated the width so that it matches the aspect ratio of my iPhone. The maximum possible layers can be found in the Canvas Info tab under the Layer section. This number is also the maximum amount of frames you can have in a single file, which also depends on the RAM of your iPad, so keep that in mind. Let's turn on the Animation Assist under Action, Canvas. After turning it on, a mini timeline will appear in here. Now each layer or group will become the frame of your animation. You can also change the setting of the timeline here. For the Anya animation I made, I used 8 frames per second. You can also change the onion skin frames and opacity here. These features are very useful as they show the frames before and after. For me, I like to find the reference images first. For example, this keyframe is a reference to the first episode of Spy Family. After this keyframe is completed, I wanted to show Anya moving towards the table. To do this is very straightforward. First, we need to duplicate the frame. And then select the layer we want to move. After that, just use the transform tool to display the layer slightly. You can turn on the magnetic snapping tool for major movement, and tapping in the direction you want to move for fine adjustment. Quick tips, I also have the hand and the table in separate layers under the same group. In that way, I won't affect them when moving or erasing the Anya layer. After that, just rinse and repeat until you are satisfied with the motion. After completing the line art, I like to duplicate the files and flatten the frames for easier coloring. Here we go. We now have a separate file with all the flattened frames. By doing this, it also helps to free up some layers for the coloring later. From now on, the reference, color drop, and lasso tool are your best friends. To color the frame, all you need to do is to create a new layer, move it below the line art, group them together, set the line art as reference, and then drag and drop the color accordingly. You can also enable continue filling for rapid coloring of the same element. For the area you forgot to close the gap in line art, no worries. You can just use the lasso tool to trace out the shape. Make sure the color fill option is on. Same things for the shadows and the highlight. For similar frames, you can simply copy the color to the new layer. Quick tips, the lasso tools could also be used to isolate a specific area of your frame. Just make sure the color view option is toggled off. Congratulations, you have now completed 90% of the animation. Before importing to Procreate Dream for the finishing touches, I also like to set the hold duration for the frames that I want to pause for longer. For example, I want to pause in here at the 6 of diamonds frame to allow people to have sufficient time to remember the card. Before importing, let's first create a new movie in Procreate Dream. For the full version, I use the 4K widescreen template. Click the three dots on the top right corner. You can set the frames per second and the duration here. I will set that to 8 frames per second and 25 seconds long. Tap Enter and you will enter the workspace. To import the animation from Procreate to Dream is very easy. All you need to do is to open both apps side by side and drag the files from Procreate to Dream. To navigate the workspace is pretty simple. 1 finger to move around, 2 fingers to zoom, and 3 fingers to stretch the timeline. For example, moving up to enlarge it vertically, moving right to enlarge it horizontally. First thing I like to do after importing is to regroup the scene using the timeline edit tool. Very simple, long press to ungroup. And then just use the Apple Pencil to group the corresponding frames together. This is a preview of the final product. All I add is some text, special effects, and camera movements. To add text, first we add a new track, and then we add the text in the same section. You can double tap to edit the text. You can click on the text in the timeline and then move it to where you want in the preview screen. For the mind reading special effect, we can add a new track again, and then enter the draw in paint mode. After that, just draw some white dots around her antenna. Exit the draw in paint mode. Adjust the name. And finally add some opacity keyframes by tapping this action button. You can play with the values. For me, I used 100, 20, 90, and 30. Similarly, the camera movements are achieved with the Move and Scale keyframe. For example, in this scene, I just enlarged it from 1 to 1.03 and moved it up by 50 units. You can also play with the easing by long pressing the gray area. Personally, I like the easing option for this scene. Now you have successfully created an animation with your iPad. You can export the animation by tapping the file name and then the share button. If you also want to learn how to read people's mind with this animation, check out the tutorial in the description below. Like and subscribe for more. Bye.